Well, welcome to our penultimate um, online session for 1251 EDN. And this week we were going to be discussing the ICT general capabilities of the Australian curriculum. I've been waiting for some students to join us, but it looks like assessment activities, etc., are taking their priority, as they often do at this time of year. But I'll just send out the invitations one more time. I do see that there are a couple of you, though, watching online. So if you would like to have a discussion via the Q&A, please feel free to post your questions into the Q&A panel, and I will endeavour to answer them. Otherwise, this will probably be a very short session this week. Now, generally, at this time of the semester, we spend a lot of time discussing your assessment tasks. There's been relatively few questions about that, which is normally a good thing, which means you've got an understanding of what's required and you're confident enough to be completing that without asking too many questions. But for this week's session, we are looking at the Australian curriculum general capabilities, and in particular how they relate to secondary schools. The Australian curriculum goes from foundation through to year 10, at least in the main aspects of it. And so for secondary schools, from years 7 through to year 10, we have 4 years of curriculum material. And within each of those years, there are expectations of ICT skills to be developed in students. Regardless of which subject you're teaching, there will be an expectation that you will incorporate some ICT capabilities or develop some ICT capabilities with your students in your subjects. Now, in each subject, there are details of what the ICT general capabilities are expected to be developed. And I'll just share my screen to show you some of those. So in mathematics, for example, there are various ICT capabilities that are expected. And if you look at the mathematics curriculum and you go into the foundation to year 10 and go into, say, year 9, and scrolling down, you see various icons which represent the general capabilities. And where there's a little computer icon and you click on that, you'll see what the expectations are around that. So here, creating with ICT, so using computers to assist in the creation of various activities. So you can use that to see where ICT expectations are implemented. So again, using digital media elsewhere for information on how data was obtained, to estimate population means and medians. So fairly obviously there's an opportunity to use ICT to locate and generate and access data and information and select and evaluate data and information. Likewise with science, various uses of ICT. So here we're using stuff for statistics and collecting data. Click on the ICT general capability icon, and eventually it will pop up and say that locating and generating data, managing data, and selecting and using various items of hardware and software are ICT general capabilities that could be developed when students are addressing that particular learning outcome in science. So there's a whole range of them that are available. Quite a few of the science ones involve collaboration, online collaboration. So if we look at, say, this one, identify the impacts of ICT on society. So another one there. Investigating with ICT, defining and planning information searches, selecting and evaluating data and information, locating, generating and accessing data and information. So a whole range of embedded ICTs that are expected to be addressed during students' studies of science and mathematics and the other learning areas, including digital technologies and design and technology. So as you engage with the curriculum documents in your subject areas, you will need to look for opportunities to improve students' understanding of the use of computers in that particular subject. It's not all left for digital technologies. Digital technologies is about learning about computational thinking and computer programming and information systems and so forth. The basic skills of using computers are embedded across all curriculum areas, and that's something you need to take into consideration when you're developing your units of work in science or mathematics or your other teaching areas. So do we have any questions from those that are watching online? If you could put those into the Q&A. So within the science, for example, you'll see general capabilities listed, and in there you'll see information and communication technologies and a little brief description of that. If you go to the actual ICT general capabilities section of the ACARA document, you will also see them detailed, and you'll see them organized into 5 areas: applying social and ethical protocols and practices, investigating with ICT, creating with ICT, communicating with ICT, and managing and operating ICT. So all the general capabilities for ICT are based around those 5 organizing structures. And within the curriculum then, so if we pop down to level 6, because for the ICT general capabilities at the moment, they're organized into 6 bands rather than the full 11 bands, but that may be developed later. And within each of these, so if we look at level 6, which is sort of around year 10 level, or by the end of year 10, and we click on show examples, they'll provide us various examples of that, and often they'll give examples within subject areas. So we just find one where within subjects. So here we are. So selecting and evaluating data and information. So comparing objective data from multiple digital sources and evaluating the likely credibility of the information provided. We see that within science, within the particular science outcome as indicated there, we can see that there's opportunities in the elaborations for science inquiry skills, planning and conducting, to consider how investigation methods and equipment may influence the reliability of collected data and other aspects related to ICT. Using modeling and simulations, including using digital technologies to investigate situations and events. So as you look at doing the various science-based learning outcomes, there will be opportunities to cover the ICT general capabilities. And ensuring that they're all covered during a program of study is quite a complex task, because remember, it's not just ICT as a general capability. You've got a whole range of other general capabilities that need to be addressed, and that's part of your planning process, or normally the school's planning process. So you work with other teachers and heads of department, etc., to ensure that there's a comprehensive plan for developing student ICT general capabilities across all their subject areas. So just another couple of examples. So another one in science related to communication. So using the internet to facilitate collaboration in joint projects and discussions. So creating a link with another school or perhaps some scientists and having them participate in students' discussions about various aspects and exploring that as a method of communication of scientific ideas and etc. that's related to the science learning outcome. So there's a whole range of these. It is difficult to get your head around them because there are so many, and it is sort of an ancillary aspect of the subject. So your science learning outcomes are obviously your primary focus if you're teaching science, but then you also need to look at the general capabilities and how they can contribute, or how your studies of science, as an example, can contribute. But you'll also need to be looking at literacy, numeracy, critical and creative thinking, personal and social capability, ethical understanding, and intercultural understanding. So there's a lot more to teaching science than just meeting the science learning outcomes. And in addition to those, you've also got the cross-curriculum priorities of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander histories and cultures, Asia and Australia's engagement with Asia, and sustainability. So as you do your lessons and your unit planning, keep in mind that you also have a responsibility to the general capabilities. And for this course, we're focusing on helping you understand that the ICT general capabilities are also part of that. Okay, well, I haven't seen any questions come through, so I'll send out the invites one more time. See if we can get anyone in here that would like to discuss their assessment tasks, or of course any aspects of the general capabilities. But if not, we'll rely upon the discussion forums to continue our elaborations of the portfolio of learning that you should all be now working on. Remember, those two your remaining two portfolio of learning tasks or activities are due in, not this Monday, but next Monday, or Monday the 1st. Yes. So good luck with those. We will be having one final session next week. Now in that one, normally the focus is again on your assessment and clarifying any issues or providing you with advice on your assessment tasks. But we'll also be looking at developing your professional learning portfolio or processes that you can use to continue your understanding of ICTs throughout the rest of your degree studies, but also as you go into teaching and the various professional associations and organizations and unions and other groups that can assist you in maintaining your understanding of the use of digital technologies in your teaching as you progress into the profession. Because there will be a lot of expectations on you as a beginning teacher, and the various support networks and structures that are available for you to draw upon are an important aspect of preparing you for that. Now, I understand you're not particularly focused on that aspect of your career path just yet. Your main focus is on completing your courses and getting high grades and those sort of aspects. But there is life after university, and you do need to have some structures in place to continue your professional learning. And some of those will involve social media and social networks and other aspects related to that. But there'll be other more formalized processes such as conventions and professional associations and workshops, professional development days that it's useful for you to have an understanding of. So, still waiting for any questions at all? Otherwise, we'll probably need to wrap things up. Remembering the intent of these discussions is to have a discussion. And a one-way discussion is much more like a lecture. So, I do see that there are a few of you watching. So there is the Q&A panel that you can ask questions of. Other than that, quickly email me a question. Happy to answer any questions related to the course, or at this point, any questions related to your studies. Okay, well, it doesn't look as though we're getting any questions through. I'll just have a quick check of the TeachMeet, not TeachMeet, the today's meet. See if any of you are asking any questions there. No, it doesn't look as though there's any there either. Well, hopefully you're all very confident with your final assessment. Good to see. I am going through and marking your first assessment tasks at the moment, and they seem to be all quite competently done. There are a few of you that left a few of those out, which is a little disappointing given the level of the tasks. They were designed to be quite easy to do and to complete. But I guess some of you have got other priorities other than your studies at the moment. Hopefully those watching this video, you're all well in track to completing your portfolio items and getting the appropriate grades for your effort and your level of capability at this stage of your understanding of the use of ICTs for teaching and learning. So until next week then, we'll finish up, and I will hopefully see more of you for our final session next week.